Hi, my name is William Lee Phillips Jr., and my brother Troy Dwayne Phillips is an ambassador for the Enneagram Prison Project.
Hi, my name is Clay, and this is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. In this episode, I sit down with EPP Ambassador Troy Phillips. For a little context, this conversation is split into two halves. In the first half, Troy and I sit down with Rick Olesic for a conversation about going back into San Quentin in what is Troy's first time returning to prison since he was released a few years ago. And the second half of the conversation is after San Quentin, and we get to hear Troy's perspective on how that all went. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening. This is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast.
My name's Troy Phillips, type 6, he, him pronouns. I am above the line, and I became a participant of EPP in 2017 while I was incarcerated at San Quentin State Prison. I have been released from prison June 2020, and I was approached by Susan, Sue, and Dana about continuing my EPP work, and asked me, was I interested in doing the work, continuing the work, and becoming an ambassador. And since 2020, that is exactly what I've been doing.
Nice. Now, so your introduction to the Enneagram was at San Quentin.
Yes.
And do you remember what that was? Did you see a flyer? Did you hear somebody talking about it? What was your first impression or your initiation or whatever into the Enneagram?
I was invited to come by a fellow ambassador, Edmund Johnson. And I had been doing groups, and so he was like, this is something else that can help you personally, to give you insight into you. And he says, come. And so him being as close friends as we were, I came.
How long had you been gone at that point?
2017. So I did a total of 18 years. And so 2000, I got on 20, so 15.
Okay.
15 years.
When you first, so at the beginning of that 15, the last 15 was 15 straight.
18 straight.
18 straight.
Yes.
How long? So I'll say my thought, and then the question might be obvious. But I think when people get incarcerated, they get this whole experience. If you get arrested, well, first of all, you're living in the world, presumably some sort of criminal related life. Get arrested, that's jarring. You're going to be gone for a while, and I don't find that a lot of people in their first few years are super open to a whole lot.
No.
And so it takes a while. So it's not always the case. So I don't want to just put that on everybody. Okay. But it's often the case. Takes a minute.
So for me, I was incarcerated. I committed my crime in 2002. I was arrested under assault with a deadly weapon and various charges from Kern County. And I subsequently took a plea deal for 25 years to life under the 3 strikes law. I was sentenced and sent to High Desert State Prison in 2002. And while I was at High Desert State Prison, there really wasn't any program except for Narcotics Anonymous, church. And I started dabbling there. People I was around introduced me and asked me if I wanted to come, and I started showing up. But it really wasn't until I got to San Quentin in 2005 that I met somebody that introduced me to wanting to change my life.
What was that introduction like? What was so convincing about it?
Well, it was my cellmate, and he observed me for 2 weeks. We talked cordially, but after about 2 weeks, he came in and we had a heart-to-heart talk, and he seen I wasn't a gang member. He seen I wasn't involved in a bunch of stuff. And he asked me, is this the life that I wanted to live? And I like, what do you mean? He says, do you want to live in prison for the rest of your life? And I told him no. And so he asked me to go out on the yard the next day, the next evening. He asked me to go out on the yard before I go down to the lower yard at San Quentin, step to the side and look out over the fence and tell me what I see. So the next day I did that. When he came back to the cell at 9:00 that night, I was in the cell crying. So at that point in time, I knew that this is not the life that I wanted to live. And he sat there and he opened the door. He says, I can help you get yourself help. I can help you help yourself, is basically what he said. And so he introduced me to various groups, college program, and I started making a change, started walking that walk.
What did you see?
What did I see when I went out?
Yeah, you look over the fence and tell me what you see. What was the answer to that question?
I saw freedom.
Yeah.
I saw family that I left behind. I saw traffic. I just saw society. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of society.
Yeah.
But because of my drug addiction, if I may go back, because of my drug addiction, I had separated myself from society a long time ago. Many, many years ago. So just getting a realization of it, sitting there in San Quentin with a life sentence, when life in California doesn't mean that you're going to get out. Life means life. At least that's what I thought at that time.
Yeah.
There is hope. I'm here today to prove that.
I'll say here real quickly that we're joined by EPP's Executive Director, Rick Olesic, and I hope it's clear that it's an open invitation to jump on in here or chime in.
Very nice.
I don't know if that'll be audible to the listener, but there's some chimes
some
in the
wind
background.
Chimes in the background.
Yeah. So any thoughts or questions or anything, just feel in to jump in whenever.
Will do.
So that's a pretty it's a good starting point to where I want to go next with it. And that is you meet, Edmund, your buddy.
Right.
He tells you about this Enneagram class. Where you, by that point, so what I'm hearing you describe, I need to find a better way to say it, but I call it like the fuck it moment. Like, fucking, I'm done. I'm done with what I was and I want to be something different, or I want to go in a different direction, or however you want to say that, which it sounds like what you're describing.
Yeah, that was in 2000. Technically, I can honestly say it was in 2008.
Right.
3 years after I got to San Quentin, I said, fuck it. I'm tired.
That's it.
Yeah, I even playing around with what I was playing around, I was through.
Yeah. What other programs did you did before? You mentioned, I don't want to misspeak and say what I think. I know what we talked about before.
So I
the mics
did
were on,
Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah.
Was one of the first ones. I did Trust.
Yeah, Trust.
Teaching Responsibility, Utilizing Social Training. I did GRIP, Nonviolent Communication, Vogue. So basically, I was learning learning the skills of what it means to be head of household. I don't want to say a man.
Right.
I want to say to be a head of household or to be a father figure in the house. And then I learned about violence, the different types of violence, emotional, financial, physical, all those types of violence, structural, institutional. And then I just started, I think it was when college, I took a child development psychology class. And that child development psychology class started triggering things in me because I had a daughter that was born 30 days after I was arrested. So I had never got to touch her. I didn't get to raise her. I didn't get any of that. But those things started triggering things from my past. And so at the time, I had went through Vogue and I'd learned all this stuff. When Edmund asked me about coming to EPP, and he says, this can help you free yourself. And I asked him, what do you mean free myself? I've been doing that. He says, no, just come. And so when I came, I met Susan, I met Dana and Aaron.
Let me ask you first, was it that simple? He said, no, just come. You're like, all right, cool, I'm down.
Yeah,
or was there any hesitation?
No, that was that simple.
That was enough.
At that time in my life, it was that simple.
Okay.
No, there was no hesitation. I was looking for something else to do, and so that it just fit right in.
Yeah. There's a quote. I've heard Russ say it. I don't know where the quote actually comes from, but it's probably an old one. It's when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You know who that's from?
No.
How's that funny? I don't know what's funny. It's funny. Was that accurate?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
At that time in my life, EPP showed up at the right time. The right time.
So walk me. You said you met Susan, Dana, Aaron,
and Aaron. Yes.
How long was it? Because I would imagine with two of those folks sharing a type with you, how long did that play any role in finding your type quickly, or what was your process like of first of all just learning a basic, just a surface level grasp of the Enneagram, and then finding your type? What was that process like for you?
So when I first went in there and was listening, I thought I was a type 8. Dana was she was really my point person. And so when we had to write our bios is when it really hit me of what my type was and what I needed. Because Dana hit me with this thing when I wrote my first bio. As you see, I said my first bio.
Mm-hmm.
She says, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
She pulled me aside and, she said, that's bullshit. I need you to go deeper. I need you to give it to me because there's no shame in here. She says, you've been through enough groups, enough this and that you don't have to bullshit yourself because this is all about you. This is not about me. It's not about it's about you.
I want to take like a slight detour just momentarily because what you said. So on the last episode of the podcast, we have a segment called Words of Appreciation where we just pick somebody and appreciate the hell out of them. And Dana was on the last, is who we appreciated last episode. And that was a common theme from a few folks was her ability, and even in the podcast chat Slack channel where people were sharing some appreciation even after the episode went up, this common theme of she'll do that. She gets away with it. Like she can say that's bullshit or this is bullshit or what that whole conversation. And I think to someone who might not have a lot of experience working in prison or being in prison, it actually, I would think it shows up like, how do you get away with that? Like what is it about Dana that allows her to have that conversation with you so directly?
Because she sees something in you that you don't see in yourself or that you're hiding from. So she really listens and looks deep within, and she comes with the real. So if you're coming in and you're supposed to be coming with the real, if she sets up that's just like somebody challenging you. When you get challenged, you're either going to step up or you're going to cower away. And I don't know if Dana, how long she'd been doing it before time, but she must have ran into a few walls and says, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she helped open that door. She keeps telling me that I did it. And I keep telling her, and I tell Susan, I have this thing that I say, Dana and Susan and Aaron, they came in with this key. And I had to take the key and turn the lock myself. So what they provided me with was a key of information. And I had to dig deep to find the hole to put the key in.
I mean, it kind of underscores the idea of doing the work together where you're not doing it by yourself and they don't get all the credit. I mean, I get all that.
Right.
Makes sense.
Wow.
So you did you redo your bio immediately? or did you wait till the next class, or what was all that?
I did it immediately. So, I mean, yeah, she wanted it wasn't waited till the next class. No, it was like
It wasn't like, hey, just a suggestion
no,
when you feel
was
like
go
it.
back and do this. And
Fuck
so
this.
that was
Take this shit.
And I went back and did it. And
she didn't put a big F on it, did she?
F-bomb Dana?
Oh, of course. If she didn't put an F-bomb, then it wasn't Dana. But at that time that I had to redo my bio, that was the first time that I had talked to my, I wrote a letter because of that bio. I wrote a letter to my mother and I asked her some things and I talked to her about some things that I hadn't talked to her about at all, that I had been carrying with me and that nobody could explain. I couldn't explain. I still had anger. I still had hurt. Yeah.
From childhood?
From childhood. I was still angry at people. I still had hatred for people. I believe people were lying to me. Wanted me to go along with a lie. And I couldn't do it. And so once I was able to express that and talk about it, because I honestly believe this was only the second class that I talked about childhood trauma. And so, and this is the only one that I talked about it in depth. Name names, places. And so, and my biggest hatred today, the person that I hated and had so much anger for, I see this man today, which is my stepfather, and I still have that love for him, but I also feel sorry because they didn't have the education that they needed at the time to do what I feel we have the education to do to teach our children today. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and the question that comes to mind. I don't know how to word it right. I experienced that myself too. When I think the more that I learn, the more I can feel sorry for or feel bad about, and it's easy to be angry and to hate because all that shit happened and it's all real. And I don't know, and maybe you can help me. I don't know at what point. I don't want to not be angry because that shit was real and painful. And I also, I'm judging pretty harshly. So how do you know when to feel sorry for or to forgive, if that's even a thing?
So that's what that was. I was just thinking as you were saying that. It was more me forgiving. So when I came home and I saw him.
Came home, you talking about get out of prison?
When I got out of prison and I got out of the transitional housing, and my younger brother, his biological son, took me up to go see him. And I seen the state of life that he's in. He's still financially well, but he's mentally beat up.
Yeah.
And so, I look at that as that's the life we live, things that happen. It happened, right? Things happen, and there was not my control. It wasn't my fault. I felt I had a right to feel the way I did, but I also learned that why am I holding so much anger when it's not doing nothing to that person?
Yeah.
It's only destroying me. So that was another part of me forgiving and letting go.
Did you talk to him about stuff directly or about specific things or what was that like when you...
He's in the early stage dementia.
Okay.
So no, I want less stress on him. I don't want to, there's nothing that can be changed.
Yeah.
Over time, since I've been home and out of prison, and we go up and we check on him, make sure he's acknowledged love for me. He's acknowledged being the only father outside of my grandfather that I had, which is true. He acknowledged raising me, and he says, that's my son. He said that.
Yeah.
And he said that in front of my stepbrother, which we don't even look at each other like that. But he said that, and then we both looked at each other, and that was another leaf or a branch falling off.
Is that enough for you?
Yes. From there,
zero hesitation.
From right there, that's enough.
Yeah.
Because I didn't meet my biological till I was 27. So my stepfather was there through all my baseball, football, everything that I wanted praise for that I felt I didn't get. All the love I kept putting at him, busting my knuckles, putting in engines in a truck that I wanted that both my other brothers got. You know what I mean? But to hear him say that at this time in my life, it doesn't excuse what happened.
Yeah.
But it made me let the anger go even that much farther.
Is that who you call dad?
No, I call my grandfather dad. I call my stepfather pops now.
Okay.
But I used to call him. So the only time I ever called him dad was in front of people. So if he came to my game and I was doing good, this is my dad.
Yeah.
If we were at home, Bill.
That's wild.
The only person growing up, I called my grandfather daddy.
Yeah.
There was only one grandchild when my grandfather was alive that called him grandpa. Everybody else called him daddy.
Yeah.
And he had 3 girls, and I was his boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Protector, appraiser, teacher, everything.
I actually think we could sit here and talk for like another couple hours on that because there's a lot. There's a lot
it's
there. Complex, as we say.
Yeah.
But I do want to move forward talking about getting out of prison, what it's been like for the last 3+ years now, what's coming up this week. As we talk, we are, we're a day ahead of going back into San Quentin on purpose, voluntarily as a guest. Yeah.
Hours.
Yeah.
Hours.
It is 10 or 11 at night, the night before. So we're
before.
Probably about 12 hours. We'll be in the parking lot there. And then later this week, we have a conference that we'll be at. And we can talk about that too. We're sharing a room at the hotel. So the first half of this, we're recording the night before we go to San Quentin.
Right.
The second half of this, we'll record after San Quentin.
Okay.
So I want to know a bunch of things. First of all, this is your first time going back into prison tomorrow.
Yes.
I want to know how you feel about that. I want to know any thoughts that come up around that. I want to know why you even care or why you want to do that. Literally anything that comes up about tomorrow's event that we're doing in San Quentin, and how long ago did you know that this would be happening? Have you prepared for it? Literally anything that comes to mind.
So I'm anticipating. So it's anticipation, and it's something that I want. And I'm very glad that this time I was able to get approved to come in, even if it's for just the day and not the year. It's a blessing for me to be able to step back in. Am I scared to step back in? No, because I know there's nothing there's nothing that I have hid for them to say, oh, well, we're locking you up because you got this. No, there's nothing there. I don't have that fear. The only thing I'm looking at that might be weird is hearing the gate lock.
Yeah. The old Sallyport.
Yeah, old Sallyport.
When one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah. So, but I know I have it set in my mind that I'm going to walk in tomorrow and I'm going to walk out tomorrow through the front door.
Yeah.
So the reason why, I want to give back. For so long at San Quentin, I watched people come in and teach for free, give their heart freely, educate me, help me grow freely. They gave of themselves freely. And I owe this to them and to myself.
Who is the them? The teachers or the people that are
to the
living?
People.
Yeah.
So everybody that came into me as a teacher, everybody that came in and gave of their time freely to teach me math, to teach me English, to teach me EPP, to teach me that I am not my crime. All those people I owe. That's a debt that I owe. It's a vow that I made that if I ever got the chance that I would give back, because I want the next man to have that opportunity to walk out that gate like I did. And it's possible. You just have to change. They have to want change. They have to want change and work on it. And ain't none of it easy. None of it.
Yeah.
There's many nights laying in that bed and crying because of where I'm at with another man sleeping above me, but he can't hear me cry.
How?
What do you mean?
How can he not hear someone crying 3 feet away?
Because maybe you're not crying out loud, you're crying within your soul.
Yeah. Mm.
Can't sleep, toss turning. He might hear that, but he might not hear you boo-hooing. But if he has a relationship with you and you tossing around, he knows something. He knows that you're going through it.
What is that like, that celly relationship? Because that's not a normal thing where as humans we sit there and we know that a person, I'm talking literally like within arm's reach, is struggling with some big stuff. And do I say something? Do I,
It depends on the relationship you have, because you can have cellmates that you don't have that type of relationship with. I was fortunate enough to attract people that were on the same path. School, change. I've had a couple. They didn't last long.
I recognize that face, by the way. You can't hear it because the mics don't pick up the look that you just gave me. What is that?
That means that they had to find them someplace else to go. Or they were found someplace else to go. I mean, look, you understand prison living. You'll put up with what you want to put up with. So, and it didn't have to be, there was a choice. Either you move or I'm going to move.
Yeah.
Either one.
Or we'll fight and we both get moved.
No, there was no, at that point in my life, I ain't doing no fighting.
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't doing no fighting. It was either, look, man, we ain't getting along.
Yeah.
Go try to find you someplace to go.
And where you were, they helped that work anyways, right?
They helped that work. And, you have clerks and officers that help that. But mainly clerks. You can go, hey, man, we ain't getting along. He need to go find him or I need to go find, hey, let me get that cell. I need that cell. It's empty.
Yeah.
And then I can get moved.
I have a couple questions about tomorrow that I want to ask you, but first I just want to invite Rick in. Any thoughts or questions, or you're hearing all this?
I am. I'm listening, and it's fascinating because I don't know all of your story, Troy, and so it's lovely to sit here and under the moon, just be kind of listening to it and be digesting it for the first time, and I appreciate how easily it is that you can share all the things that have happened with you and have come through you. I think the thing that comes up for me, and I'm going to butcher it, I think, but I'll do my best. Viba, I was talking to Viba about something a couple weeks ago, and it really struck me the way she described this. And she was talking about why we're on this planet. And she was talking about some things that she had learned when she was young, and and values that she had, and one of them was for self-work and for us to work on ourselves. And this, she's like, and that's the first. And the second one is to work in the community, and work with your community, and work in a group, and find and be able to learn things, and to teach in this group. And then she mentioned this, but she said, but the last one is the one that I think is this thing that's been lost. And it's this part around generational change and giving back, and this part around being, for the good of, right, for the good of society, for the good of the next man, for the good of whatever. But the way she said it was, she said, I'm picking up work that has been worked on before me, and I'm going to pass it off to someone else that's going to work on it after me. And it's this like generational and transitional, work in the world to try to make something better. That and to do it with the understanding and the context of what has come before, and what is going on, and what's going to go on in the future with people that are going to be after us. And the way you were kind of talking about, about your stepfather, and about being able to recognize that he was doing the best he could with what he had, and that it was, and of course, shitty stuff and all of that, and trying to like make sense of it all inside yourself. But that we are in this place where we can do better for our children, and our children can do better for their children, and try to move the needle in terms of how we can bring good into the world, and to grow something that's greater than us. So that's what was coming up for me.
I want to say that my barometer is something that I gained back from my grandfather, because he was a good, strong man, and each one teach one, right? I grew up in a time when the village, everybody looked out for everybody. You do something across town, by the time you got home, you're going to get it again. You got educated across town. You know what I mean? It's the village got to take care of. So that's part of giving back, because society today, there's a lot of people that don't work on themselves. I was just telling somebody this the other night in a long conversation on the phone, that I come to my group to work on myself and to maybe help somebody else. But every time I go, I learn something. And that's my goal. Because I think her question was, why do you keep doing this? What's still wrong with you? I'm like, I ain't perfect. I got issues. Everybody got issues. It's just that I'm facing that I have issues, and that I'm working on them so that I can be better.
You talk about taking a village. It throws me back about a decade. And that first, Rick's nodding his head, the video, it wasn't literally the first one we had, but it was one of the first high quality productions that we had. And it was, takes a village. That was the motto for a while. Takes a village. We still say it.
I know.
It's still on stuff.
Right.
But I can hear the music.
I can, and I can hear Susan saying it.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
No. But I have heard her say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard her say that in plenty of.
Right. And it's this thing for me, the thing that really resonates is that it all starts by working on yourself, right? It can't. And, there's many quotes of, the best way to change the world is to work on yourself.
Yeah.
And these things are, we can use them as axioms or, as, quotes or things that we can get off of memes or whatever. But there's so much truth to this particular thing that it all, but I'll go back to what Alex loves to say, which is the river of life flows from the inside out. And again, it's this part of how can I how can I give back? And how can I pick up this work, and that's being passed along if I'm not in the work, right? How can I do that if I'm not actually living this, this thing where I'm trying to understand myself and understand my group and my community and be reflected back? How can I do that? And the answer is you can't. So
No.
you have to be in the, and that means that you're being challenged, right? That means you're willing to sit in that fire and hear the unvarnished truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes from others, but oftentimes from yourself.
Sometimes from a bump in the road, it'll talk to you.
Nah.
Exactly. Right.
I'm thankful for the blessings that I have. Every day outside of prison is a day better than in prison. I don't care how hard hard I might have it out here.
What do you think tell me like the biggest difference between living out here in the free world today versus before. If do you already have your answer before I even get the damn question out? I'll just shut up.
I'm trying to listen. I'm listening.
No, but it felt something immediately came to mind.
Just go ahead, finish.
You know the question. It's what is the biggest difference between today and before you went to prison? What is something that's noticeably different?
Emotional responsibility.
Talk about that.
It's just being responsible, knowing right from wrong and doing right from wrong, regardless. Being responsible because it's not all about me, right? 4 of my grandbabies are in Las Vegas. One is here in Bakersfield. So I see one more often than I see the 4. My oldest daughter told me, Dad, I know you can't come all the time. You can't come when I want you to come. You can't. But as long as you stay home, as long as you keep doing what you're doing to stay home, you're doing everything that I need you to do. And that's the biggest difference, that I'm able to have emotional responsibility. I'm able to respond to things and not react. I'm able to take responsibility for my actions.
Is stay home a different way to say stay out of prison? Or is she talking about something else?
No, stay home is staying out of prison.
Yeah. Have all these fluffy phrases.
I don't know. I don't know.
But that's directly what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you stay home, out of prison, I'm free. We talk, she works her butt off, and I'm so proud of her, but when we talk, we have deep talks, and she's just so proud that I've made this change. I tried to talk to them about stuff like this while I was inside, and then one ear and out the other. So modeling it is helping.
So as I said earlier, this will be the first half of a 2-parter before and after we go in tomorrow. And are we good for like another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I said like 30, 45, and we're rolling up on 45. So we'll go past that a little bit. And there's 2 questions in particular I want to ask. And then, of course, anything, Rick, that comes up for you, feel free to throw something in there as well. But one thing that I definitely want to know is, as far as like expectations for you going back in tomorrow, give me like, what is one thing that you expect, either good or bad, what to experience, to see, to anything going back in tomorrow for your first time since you got out?
I don't expect anything. I just want to let the day unfold. Because I don't want to be overthinking, right? It's hard for me to overthink. It's hard when I overthink. Yeah, it's an alarm.
Oh, okay. You take medicine or something?
No, it's my camera's at the house.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, go ahead.
So the only thing I don't expect it, but what I'm hoping to see is somebody that I know, somebody that I did time with that's still there. I'm not saying that you understand what I'm saying. If there's somebody still there that I've done time with, I want them to see. I want them to see. Yeah, I got out. I made changes, and this is the result of the change. And you can do it too.
It's good. I have one final question. I'll pause here to see if Rick has anything to throw in. No?
No, not really, but I do. I'm curious. I guess I do have something. I'm curious because you were mentioning, see someone who can see that. But I also remember you saying at the dinner table that you'd also like to see some of the people that helped you along the journey.
Yes. There's several of them are retired, but there's a lady, and she's an employee of San Quentin, Mena Jandu. I would love to see her see me.
What a phrase.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
I like that.
she worked. She's a part of the groups. At one time when going deeper, but at one time in San Quentin, they used to get to choose, right? Which groups they wanted to be with, and then they would get compensated for it. And then then it came along where they stopped compensating them, and she continued to work with the group. She continued to take her time. And she continued to be genuine. She continued to be that sister that would talk to her brother if she saw his brother getting out of line.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't cross the line, but she would talk to you and let you know, but she always encouraged you too. So if you took her your accolades, she would be there.
Was this prison staff or was this a volunteer?
Prison staff. So just to go real quick.
That's rare.
She was with the college program. She was also with where they bring the kids in. I can't remember the name, but what they bring the kids in so that they could talk. But anyway, she was in trust and all that. So I was in that, a part of Alliance for Change. I was in that. The first time I met my daughter physically, she was 10 years old. She came in on the get on the bus. And I told Maine, I said, wow, I'm getting ready to meet my daughter. And she said, huh? I said, I'm getting ready to meet my daughter for the first time this weekend. They're coming up on Get on the Bus. I want you to come out there. She said, I don't know. It's a weekend. She always do that, so then she's going to show up. But her and Lieutenant Robinson, who was also talking about it in there, Sam Robinson, they were out there and they seen when I got to meet my daughter and how she saw, because she saw me. She knew who I was, knew what I looked like, but it was our first physical. She ran and jumped in my arms and held on to me. And I'll never forget looking over there and seeing them and they were crying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would love for her to see me in this way. Coming back in and giving.
One final question. We'll wrap it for now. I think I'm proud to sit next to you as an ambassador. I find you to be what an ambassador should strive to be. Someone gets out, represents, does the work, puts effort in, happy to share. It's a big deal, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
And I think we're better for having you, and glad you're here. And I want to know, going back in specifically about tomorrow, but just in general, I guess too, but really tomorrow, what's the number one gift you feel like you bring going back in, whether to the group or to individuals or to whoever, what is it that you really have to offer?
I think it's just my presence. I don't know. That's something that's a hard question. What I have to offer is me. I was just like you. I am just like you. I just don't have to wear that blue no more. Nothing else has changed. I don't have to wear that blue no more. And neither do you. So that's the greatest gift that I think I can give them.
That's pretty good. I'm cool stopping there.
I'm good too. Mic drop.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right. Hey y'all, it's Clay, and we're going to pause here real quick to share with you a few words of appreciation for our friend Lance White. Officially, Lance is a board member for the Enneagram Prison Project, and he is, well, I'll just say it this way. Lance is a big impact kind of guy. I know that Lance always has my back. No matter what the situation is, I can call and say, hey, there's this thing, and I don't know what to do. And he is one of the people that I rely on to just be there and to listen, and then also move into the problem solving phase of whatever the situation is. Most recently, actually, this wasn't recently, this is probably a little over 2 years ago now. I had an experience where I was in a bad car crash, and I bopped my head pretty good. I had a concussion. I didn't really feel comfortable with my language. And Lance was actually the only person that I would talk to for the first several days after my crash, because I was just so, I was so insecure about the way that I sounded when I talked. My words were slurred, and I forgot a lot of words. And so I really say that just to show the amount of comfort that I experience by having someone like Lance in my life. It's a big deal, and I appreciate it. And it ain't just me. Here's a few other folks from around EPP who would like to share with you their appreciation for Lance White.
He is one of the first folks I talked to when I was just volunteering at EPP. And I remember exactly where I was sitting when I spoke to him. And I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I want to work next to this guy. And that hasn't changed in the several years that I've known Lance. I'm so, so glad that he's part of my life. So glad he's part of this project. He is one of those people that does so much under the radar. You don't even know how much he does. And he does it with so much love. He's taught me a lot about love and compassion and really showing up for folks. Lance, I love you to pieces. And I'm so glad that we get to be friends and part of this project together.
Lance has one of the biggest hearts I have ever experienced. His compassion for this organization and for the public that we serve, especially the incarcerated individuals, is without parallel. He is such a giving and caring person that, quite frankly, I don't think without him and his support that we would be in the places we are today. I personally am always inspired by him, the way he shows up and his groundedness to hold space and to stay in difficult and loving conversations are just so inspiring to me. And I love him. We love him. And just thank you so much for all you do. We love you, Lance.
I am so excited to get to offer appreciation for Lance. Lance is one of the most generous, kind, and humble people I know. He is always there, willing to help and support and guide, listen to, hold space. And he is so busy. It's shocking to me how he makes space for so many amazing causes, for so many people, for all of the things in his life that he deeply cares about. I have deep admiration for Lance and appreciation for how he bees and how he shows up in all spaces inside of EPP. Love you, Lance.
Appreciate Lance White. Easy. Do it in 1 to 2 minutes. I'll do my best. Lance, just a person that brings light to this world. And just thinking about what I wanted to say, I wrote down 3 words, ability, confidence, and humility. But then in the middle of those 3 words, I put a big heart. And to me, that is what I see in Lance, just that combination of ability, confidence, and humility, but all centered on his big heart. And you know, as a friend, as I see him interact with people, he's a friend that's really family. If you're a friend with Lance, it seems you are part of his family. There's so much more to say, but I'll turn to EPP. And when I think about EPP, it probably numbers in the thousands now, the number of hands that have helped build what EPP is. But there are a handful of people that are just absolutely foundational, and I can't imagine what EPP would be without them. And that's Lance. You talk about time, talent, and treasure that you can bring to an organization. Lance has brought all 3 of those from pretty much from when he first made the heart connection with EPP and understood right away the power of what EPP is doing. He's also in almost literally the heart of the board, because every board meeting we have 3 head types, we have 3 body types, and then Lance is there as the heart type, and he plays that role. And it is amazing how he looks out for everyone in the organization, how Lance does the work. But I think the key to Lance when it comes to EPP is he made the heart connection very early on and understood the power of what EPP could do. And he's been just foundational ever since. So Lance is a treasure to everyone who knows him and an absolutely essential part of EPP.
Lance has been with us and with me in this project for quite some time. And what I've really appreciated is how he's been able to bring his whole self, bring his heart into this space and be able to transform it by helping to hold others and hold on to himself. It's been a blessing to have him, as walking this journey with us. And it's been wonderful to have him as a mentor for me. And I really appreciate so much how he shows up and how much energy, how he brings his energy and heart into the space. And he transforms not just the organization, but also the community.
I think my earliest introduction to Lance was with his hand on his heart and tears in his eyes, talking about his son. And he may say he doesn't cry, or it took him a long time to, but I've always felt his great big heart. And I think I especially appreciate the ways in which it's like every ambassador is his son or daughter, and he isn't old enough for that to be the case, but he sure lets people know how much he cares, and how he cares impacts all of us. And it's really something to be in his gaze.
What I appreciate about Lance White is his big, easy smile. We have enjoyed many hours back and forth over EPP accountability and sensibility, and he always includes some humor with his insights. I really appreciate his care and respect for everyone within EPP, but especially EPP's ambassadors. He's just a natural mentor to all of us, and he walks the talk of that with sharing his global perspective, local understanding, and personal support to all of us in so many ways and in so many places on EPP. I appreciate how deeply he listens in meetings. I'll see him and his head will tilt. He'll start looking up and I'm like, wait for it. And then he'll raise his hand and wait his turn. And he's got something, a perspective no one else has seen, or an opening that only Lance has the eyes for. And I just really appreciate wrestling with him over budgeting and compensation and all things EPP, because the third way between the two of us seems to always come forward, and it's done with lightness, even though sometimes things are rather serious. And Lance has such a generous heart for everybody participating in EPP's vision and mission. He is even generous with his own home. Back in 2018, I believe it was, he hosted all of EPP's guides and ambassadors and everybody and anybody that wanted to come to the conference in his home. People were in every bedroom, sleeping on sofas, the floor. One person even had to sleep in a hallway, and did. I appreciate that. He has a lovely wife named Diane, who is an amazing cook and also a generous hostess. Whenever anyone with EPP is in the vicinity, they open the doors wide. So Lance, for all you are and for all you do, thank you. And also don't say anything, but Lance always says, I don't usually cry, but if you watch him, he has the biggest heart that easily films up his eyes when anyone is sharing something tender, because it goes straight to his heart. And I so appreciate all of that about you. Take care, Lance.
All right. So let's get back on into it. Last time we talked was almost 24 hours, exactly almost 24 hours ago. Exactly, almost. I did that. I'll say words that don't make sense sometimes. We are without Rick this time. We sat down last night to chat, and Rick was riding with us. And today, or rather tonight, as we sit, we are about an hour-ish north of where we were last night. We're in San Francisco. We're in a hotel room. We're sharing a hotel room here at the hotel where the conference is going down. And today, we went where we talked about last night. So we had an event at San Quentin Prison. So what's a full actual name? San Quentin State Prison?
Yep, San Quentin State Prison.
Okay. And we went in today, and I've been to a lot of events. That today was unusual. There was a ton of people there. And there were a bunch of other things that made it unusual. But before we get to all that, I want to ask, how was it for you today? The listeners, before the break to share our words of appreciation for Dustin, the listener heard about what it's going to be like tomorrow. You know, you weren't scared about anything. You had a good definition of description of what you hope to bring, you know, what you had to offer for those there. And so I'm curious how it all matched up, and what was today like for you. Feel free to start at any point in the day from the time you woke up to right now. What was today like for you?
Today was beautiful. I'm going to start getting to San Quentin. The travel over the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge and looking for San Quentin, and then coming over the top and seeing San Quentin Prison. Thinking about all the time that I spent in there. Thinking about the people that was in there, and then just wondering what it was going to feel like to go through. I didn't have any fear because I knew I was going to walk out. You know, I had been talked to pretty good by you and Dustin about going in, so I felt pretty comfortable. And when I got there to the gate, all he wanted to see was my ID. And
getting in is the easy part.
Getting in was the easy part, but to show him my ID and then to walk past the first gate and hear I turned so I could see the gate close.
Yeah.
And it wasn't nothing.
So you're talking about, and just to give the listener who might not have ever seen it there, the way that the layout is there's a front gate. It's an actual gate that you could drive a car through.
Right.
And then you're on the property.
Right.
But we walked several hundred feet to the first, I don't know, in Texas we call them towers, but I don't know what you call them here, but you walk to this first building where there's a Sallyport.
Yes, that's exactly what it's called, okay. Sallyport. And so once I got into the Sally Port, it's like a regular door.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you walk in, there's an officer right there that wants to see your ID.
Right.
And after you show the officer your ID and you sign in the visitor book, then there's a gate that opens that puts you inside a cage.
Which is like the classic jailhouse bars.
Classic jailhouse bars that has two sets of doors, one on one side and one on the other. So they let you in, and then after they get so many people in, then the door closes, or he closes the door. And that's the lock I looked at.
That's the ch-chung.
That's the clink. And then when the clink happened, I just looked and I'm like, okay, I really wasn't stressing. Then there was another clink for the other door on the other side.
What happens between that? You gotta
show the other officers your other ID. So you showed the one officer your ID before you went in the cage.
Where you signed in.
And
Gave you a
then when you
pass.
get inside the cell, it's not a cell. It's when you get inside this locked area.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call it a cage.
Yeah, it is.
You show the other set of officers behind glass your ID again. Once you have enough people in there that they're going to let through at one time, then they click the other door, the other gate,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk through, and then you push this big iron door, and you walk through and you walk on the yard. Today, when I got to the yard, I looked off to the right because I knew, I was spending 15 and a half years at San Quentin. I knew what was to the right of me and what was to the left.
Because when you go through that big metal door that you described, you're in prison.
You're in prison.
Yeah, there's not another step.
There's not another step. You're in prison.
You're immediately with Men in Blue.
Yes, you're immediately with Men in Blue. And as soon as I stepped in and I looked to the right, I saw 3 people that I knew very closely.
Mm.
Yeah, one guy I had worked with. I don't know if I say his name.
I don't know either. We
I would
just
just
bleep
leave
it.
it.
Just say it, or just tell a story however it feels good.
But
And if we need to
anyway,
bleep it, we can.
There you go. I saw 3 guys. One of them I worked with for about 10 years. And the other guy was my cellmate that I paroled from. And the other guy was a guy that had been at the prison for about a few years, but he's played basketball and go to school that I knew. So I was like, they looked at me and it's like, and that's Troy.
Yeah.
And they came up, I approached them and they went to give me a hug. I said, I can't hug you.
Yeah.
I said, so I can't hug you, but we could dap.
Yeah.
And so.
Why can't you hug them?
Because that's still a no-no. That's the rules and regulations of CDC.
Okay.
So that's
Free
why.
world folks can't hug
free people
the
cannot.
residents.
That's over familiarization.
Yeah. Hey, pull this down to where it's not. I mean, you can just like tilt it down a little bit. Yeah.
So it's over familiarization.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, they gave me a dap, asked me how I was doing. I told them still doing the program.
Yeah.
I said, I'm free. I go to work, but I'm still programming, and it feels good. And then, they gave me appreciation. It felt good because it seemed genuine.
Right.
Like, I left some type of mark behind. Then I went to the chapel where we waited. We set everything up and waited on everybody to come in.
So you talked earlier, you mentioned that you knew some things to look for, that I'd shared a few things. Dustin had shared a few things. You talked about going back in, and that you didn't really have any fear around that because of that. What were the things that, or do you remember? Because frankly, I don't remember all the conversations that we had about it. I know I have this like basic checklist I go down of look for this, don't sweat that, be aware of this, things like that. Do you remember what we told you? Because what I'm hearing you say is you felt prepared,
right?
And so I'm curious what. I love knowing that you went in so comfortably, and that it didn't seem that you had any triggers activated or anything like that. And so I guess I'm asking you, what did we do so right that we could do again next time? Or if anybody listening to this has a loved one that might be going back in soon, or other guides that might hear this, what did we tell you that was so helpful?
The biggest thing was just to relax, be yourself, and know that it's going to be all right. when I say that it's going to be all right, that, when I think about it, it's being all right is I know I'm getting ready to walk out of here at the end of this day. So
that seems really, you mentioned that a bunch. Is I get to go home.
I get to go home today.
And I don't know if some of that was you telling us, but also you telling yourself.
Telling myself, I get to go home. It was more just, it was a feeling.
Yeah.
And it was a good feeling, right? I know like I said, when I left San Quentin, the first time, when I left paroling San Quentin, I left all my property on the sidewalk. That's how happy I was to get out of there, to go home, to be with my brother and my family. So coming back in to San Quentin just was seeing it, realizing where I am, where I've came from, what I'm doing right now. Like, all right, I'm getting ready to go in here and show my brother some love.
Yeah. What did it look like? I mean, as a witness to your part of the day, getting up there and talking a little bit, and Susan introduced you in the chapel and brought you up on stage. And there were over 100 people there. It was a big crowd.
Right.
And first of all, did you know she was going to do that?
Yes.
So she gave you
a heads up.
So that's usually how it happens.
Right.
Sometimes
you don't get it.
You just, hey, come here for a second. So I'm glad that at least happened. And when you walked up, it felt like, I mean, she introduced you as having been out recently last few years, and you did quite a bit of time there, and a lot of dudes in the room knew you, but it felt like everybody knew you. Is that close to true?
There was a lot of people there that knew me. A lot. More than I thought that I would see today. There was a lot of all races.
Yeah.
That I've been in class with, that I worked with, see me on the yard, anything, everything. So it was a beautiful thing to be able to let them see me doing good, because one of the first things that one of them said was, man, we were just thinking about you and what you doing.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And I told them, I'm working hard every day, and I'm still programming.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Right.
The program don't stop because I got out. I said, I still have to do this every day. And that's why I'm in here today.
That's a really powerful part of you almost got an audible amen out of me, actually, sitting there in row 2 in the chapel when you said that about I'm still programming.
Yeah.
Like what I did, and I'm adding to it.
Right.
This is not what you said, but I'm adding to what you did say, which felt like what I started here, I continued.
Yes.
And so when I got out, it's not just like, oh, I'm good.
No.
It's more.
I still have to program, because I was telling this to somebody else. A lot of people in society don't take the time to work on themselves, and they stay in this rut. I took a lot of time to work on myself. So why stop? That's why I continue to come to EPP. That's why I try to make 2 to 3 times a week. That's why I do what I do. I make phone calls. If I get to feeling a certain type of way, I know I got issues still, but I can respond today and not react. And that's the biggest key to my freedom. That's what freedom really means, is responding to any and every situation and being able to respond to myself.
What is the difference? Response and reaction. Because I heard very clearly you're stating those as 2 different things. And I'm curious what that is. Can you say in any given situation, I'm hearing you want to respond instead of react, but what really is the difference there?
For me, reacting is no impulse control. That's just going.
Yeah.
Responding is taking a deep breath, taking a step back, analyzing the situation. I mean, and it doesn't take much. I'm saying a lot, but it doesn't take much to remember how far I came and where I could have been. So that's the difference for me.
I want the listener to skip back about 15 or so seconds, whatever your podcast app lets you go back 10 or 15, whatever, 20 seconds, and even hear the difference in how you explain it. Because the way that you described reacting or reactivity was very like, bam, 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 and it was just there. And when you start talking about response, it is that. Take the breath. Da, 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 da. And there's intentional thoughts, actions, breathing, and all that has its place.
That's something that you have to practice, that I had to practice.
Yeah. I caught that, by the way.
I had to practice.
Why'd you change it to I instead of you?
Because we're talking about me right now. So I can't put words into your mouth.
Yeah.
Or anybody else's mouth that's listening. This is a tool that I had to learn for myself. And I started learning it early on. Took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It took a long time for me to respond, to build that muscle. It's just like anything else. It's something that has to be practiced. And you can't be ashamed about taking it.
What happens if you don't program? What happens if you stop? What happens if you say, I'm tired of this. I'm good. I don't need it. What is the most realistic thing that happens after that in your life?
If I stop programming?
Mm-hmm. All the stuff that you're doing that helps you live the life that you want to live and be where you want to be. What happens if that's not there?
I believe my stress level goes out the roof. Because I have stress, but I have tools today to manage my stress, right? And I believe if I don't do this, if I stop doing this, it's all about reacting. And when I react, I'm giving somebody else my power. When I give somebody else my power, I don't have nothing. I'm back at square one, where anything could happen. And I need to stay on square 10, where I'm managing what happens. For the safety and security of not only myself, but other people.
Yeah, it's good. Somebody needed to hear that. I don't know who. Got a lot of people who listen. So I'll just say somebody probably needed to hear that.
That's a good thing.
Thank you for sharing that. We'll get back to today. I want to finish talking about the day because a lot of stuff happened. And I want to just ask one more question about program. I was really struck by this idea that you shared about this is a daily thing. And again, I'm paraphrasing. You didn't say that.
Right.
That's what I heard. And for me, and tell me if this was your experience, but for me, it was easy to realize this stuff in prison and to know it sucks. I hate it. I don't want to be this way. I don't want to live like this. I need something different. And in a way, it's easier to start that process in a place like prison because, well, what else am I going to do? I hate where I am. I hate who I am, all that stuff. And so when we go in and talk to folks who are doing time, it's easier for me to communicate that in a way that makes sense. Like, this sucks. You don't want this. You're going to be here. Why not do something good with it? And that's a conversation I'm really comfortable having. Have it frequently. It's fine. What I struggle with, and this is what I want your opinion on, is folks who just have it good. They've got a good job. They've never been in trouble. Money's not a problem. Family's not a problem. Whatever. Go down the list of things that from the outside looking in, it's just life is good. What do you say to people like that who, it's kind of tough to say, you need work when everything's going great. I genuinely believe everybody could still live a happier life. So what do you say to people who don't immediately see a need to program? And you're saying program every day from here on out is the way to live a successful life, happy life, healthy life, however you want to describe it. What do you say to people who don't have an obvious shitty situation to crawl out of?
So for the person that's living a life that they feel they don't need work, the best thing that I can say is think about how you treat somebody. Think about how you talk to somebody. Because if you think about how you treat somebody and how you talk to somebody, then that reflects on you. That's the best I can say.
Yeah. Does everybody need it?
I can't speak for everybody. I needed it.
What's your best guess? What do you think?
My best guess is that everybody needs work on something. Everybody has a need to feel better about themselves about something. Whether you're speaking to somebody about it, whether you're laying in your bed with a companion or without, and you're having doubts about something about you, you have to look for. I laid in that bed a long time. It took a long time. After I started programming and I started watching certain stuff on TV and I started having tears in my eyes, I was like, what the hell am I crying about? Or why are my eyes watering? That was change in my heart. That's the only thing that I could think of it to be is change. Change was coming in my heart. I'm starting to soften my heart for life.
What kind of stuff were you seeing on TV that allowed you to have that kind of response?
It could be anything. It could have been a commercial.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been, a family commercial or something where
dog food. And they're playing as a family playing like
it could
literally.
It could be family things, right? It could have been. So you see the commercials where the family is all together.
Yeah.
Where the father or the mother take time out for the child. That shit is real.
Yeah.
That shit is real. Some of us, I didn't have that all the time, but that is real. And that's something that I would love to see, right? That's something that I'd love to see. And that's a heartfelt thing.
So going back to in the chapel where we had the event today in the prison, and we broke into small groups, circles, where we passed the question around and answered the question. And each circle, there were 13 or 14 circles that had 8, 10, whatever people in them. Each circle had a facilitator and an ambassador or a guide or somebody else with EPP. And then more free will guests, visitors were in there. And then also men in blue, as we say,
right,
which was the residents, the folks who were doing time there, which actually just a side real quick, because I want to ask you, we stopped saying inmates a long time ago.
Okay.
We say residents, we say incarcerated people, we just say nicer words.
Right.
What do you think about that? How do you feel about that? Is it worth it, or is it just like, whatever?
I think it's worth it to acknowledge a person. So for me today, when I was on stage and I acknowledged people and I said, I'm not sure if I got it right, but I think I said family or my brothers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's better than calling them an inmate.
Yeah.
That's better than calling them a client. If you're my brothers, like today, my closing word was family.
Yeah.
That's something that I always use, but I wanted them to hear that. I wanted them to feel that I'm still a part of you and you're still a part of me.
Not just inmates.
No, not just inmates, men. We were in that's even touchy for me to say men, because I was conscious of saying men for the other reasons.
Right.
But
because not everybody there
acknowledges being
right, or identifies that way.
There you go.
Yeah. But as the state assigns people, that's just where they are.
That's just where they are. Thank you. But yeah, they.
I noticed that today, by the way. Because you did say my brothers, and then you kind of shifted to my people,
right?
And then found different words to say that,
right,
around that. It's a funky idea for people who've been locked up, especially if you've been gone a while. That's new.
Yes.
And
that's a new societal norm.
Yeah. And for the record, I'm hearing you say thumbs up or thumbs down. You like that?
I don't have a comment on that one.
Think we should find more loving language.
Just caring language.
Yeah.
Respectful language.
I didn't know that would come up, but it crossed my mind. So I figured, we'll just go there for a second. So I appreciate it. So as we did the circles, we passed around the question. The question in this case was, well, there were actually a few questions. The one that we answered in my circle was, what does freedom mean to you? Which I want to hear your answer to that. And then also anything from the circle, if that had any kind of impact on you, what was your experience around that?
I think I said freedom meant to me was a emotional intelligence to be able to work with and admit that I need help. That's what true freedom is. When I'm hiding something from myself, when I'm not acknowledging something, when I'm pushing it under the rug, it's not freedom. That's still holding myself in a prison of my own making.
Yeah.
So when I'm able to talk about it with somebody, when I'm able to acknowledge it myself, look, I need help, then that's true freedom. Because that's a freedom that once I had that freedom, nobody could take that freedom away from me.
Yeah. That's good.
And that's the key. Isn't that the key?
Yeah. I mean, for me, yes to that. And I like hearing all the different types answer this question because it you can really see where we're at and how we feel, sense, or think about different scenarios. For me, the answer to that question for me is that, what is freedom to me? It's a lack of restriction. And it doesn't mean necessarily what I can do, although that is a big part of it, or where I can go. Like I could be free inside of a fence, behind the walls or whatever. Because to me, freedom is about the ability to connect in a way that is good and for both me and the person I'm trying to connect with. Right. So, for example, with you, I feel, or like we just went to dinner, like chatting and hanging out with a bunch of people and saying, in a moment of disagreement with Dustin, being able to immediately and directly disagree and say, fuck that. What you're talking about. No, it was sort of playful,
right?
And all that, but it's real because I burn zero energy worrying about, is he offended? Is he worrying about where I'm coming from? Like, this is my brother. Right. I'm just going to say words that I know are okay to say. Or like sitting here with you, it's late. It's after 10 o'clock. It's been a long day. I want to go to sleep. I'm guessing you want to go to sleep too.
Pretty much.
And I wanted to record this while we were still on the same day of going to prison. So for me, in this situation, there's freedom for me to say, hey, are you still down? You got battery, gas in the tank, whatever. And for me to believe what you say is true and accurate. So you said, yeah, I'm down. Let's go. And even though we're both tired,
right?
I feel free in knowing that exchange is honest.
Because this was important to you, it was important to me. And I wanted to give you what you wanted.
I feel that. I know that to be true without even having to ask a million questions to verify it.
Right.
And to me, that's freedom.
Yes.
And as soon as we're done, we're going to pass out and then tomorrow I'll start all over. But I know that in that exchange, that's the freedom for me. And then, there's also freedom. Like I can get on a plane and fly to a different state without talking to a parole officer.
Man,
there's the freedom to wake up and eat junk food because I'm an adult. I don't have to run it by my parents or whatever. I can wear flip-flops instead of tennis shoes.
I can walk outside in the middle of the damn night.
Yeah. if we just decide right now to hit stop and go for a walk around town,
let's go.
It's our choice. And so there's freedom in that too. So there's a lot of different versions of freedom.
Right.
But ultimately for me, the freedom to connect honestly with other people that's freedom. It's one of my favorite versions of freedom. So I'll just wiggle in a quick thank you for sitting down.
No problem.
At 10, whatever the hell o'clock at night. So after the circles, after the breakouts, continue through the day today. We had a closing word. We had the biggest closing circle I think I've ever seen. Everybody lined the entire room of the chapel and passed around a microphone. And we, with EPP, we do our one word checkout. Tell us one word you're taking. What are you taking with you? And, family, community, wholeness, joy, excitement, wisdom, all these words. I actually broke the rules. I said a big old circle. That was my final, so it was technically a couple words, but that is how we close the session. Then there's count time right after that. All the visitors, it's time for us to go make this long ass walk back to the front gate, except when we get to the front gate. Now we went to the Sally Port where you got the one door closes, show the ID, right. Second door opens, you leave and all that stuff. You get the visitor pass back, yada, yada, yada. And then we make this long ass walk back to the very front gate where it all begins. And we don't leave.
Make a left.
We hang a left. And I actually don't know if we can say exactly where, like how to get there, but I can say where we went. We hang a left, we walk up this hill, and eventually we're at a house. We're still on prison property, on the prison grounds. And we go to this, I guess you could call it a reception, like an after party kind of thing. There were hors d'oeuvres and snacks and all this stuff, and plenty of backyard space to sit around and talk. And it didn't feel like prison, but we were definitely on prison grounds. And where we went was the warden's house, where we were accepted, invited, welcomed into, however you want to say this, the warden and his wife and their family. Their kids were there, at least one, I think, were helping to serve drinks, snacks, all this stuff. And we, EPP, 30, 40, 50 of us,
was there,
including the ambassadors, formerly incarcerated people, were at the warden's house, just hanging out. What the hell? What was that like?
That was it just felt good, right? It felt good because I was on this side of the wall, for one. Two, I was able to sit in a place where I could only think about looking at the water clearly without trying to peek through a dirty window.
Talking about the bay.
Talking about the bay.
Yeah.
And for the warden to accept us there, and then the warden come sit down with us, him and his wife and his child, to sit down with us, break bread with us, and to talk. To invite me back. I never thought it would happen. I couldn't see it, but it happened. And one thing that him and his wife both said is, some of my best friends are formerly incarcerated inmates.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
That's belief. They believe in this, in the system of rehabilitation, of self-work. I believe they believe it's not just a job or something that they do. They live it.
Yeah. And it's not I don't have a positive image for most of the wardens I don't know. It's not even the ones that I've known or met. It's just in general. I think I'm not fair in how I look at corrections staff, people who work in prison, people who, wardens, assistant wardens. I think historically, I might not have been fair enough in how I view them, because I think that, and I'll say, I think inaccurately or maybe just straight out wrongly, that they're there to enforce and put their thumb on people and just smush them and keep them down. And I was excited to go there today, but I've heard a lot of good things about him, so that makes it easier. But I think the position in general, like when you say warden, I don't always go, oh, I bet that's a face I want to see, or that's a person I want to meet. I just know how I think.
I didn't even know it was the warden when he first came in.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was like talking to him, how you doing? Shook my hand, introduced his wife. Okay. And then as soon as he walked by, somebody said, that was the warden.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? He says, yeah, that's the warden.
And to go back to the chapel, he had a moment where Susan introduced him, and he got up and shared a few thoughts, and I was just like, I was blown away.
Wow.
This is not how I view
a warden.
Yeah. And it really, I mean, I just have to admit that that's a bias I got to work on, a negative bias that I got to work on, because I can have a stereotype in my head that I don't struggle with because that's just what I think. But when I see in front of me direct opposition to what I think, and in this case, it was him, dude, he wasn't just like, hey, welcome in. He was saying big stuff like, I get to take credit for things I don't even do. And really pointing to EPP, pointing to Susan especially, and just saying how big of a deal it is, the good work that happens. And he acknowledged, like, I get credit for things that I don't do, but I don't, it ain't me.
If it wasn't y'all, it wouldn't be me.
Right. And so that's where I can go, okay, this is somebody, I can get down with this.
He's different.
It's so different. That's what they say today, built different.
Built different. He's built different. But you know what? It wasn't shocking to me because I had done so much time at San Quentin, and I think I went through a couple of wardens, associate wardens. What do you call the public relations officer?
PIO. Public Information Officer.
Public Information Officer. I've seen several of them. And it goes to what I've seen today.
Yeah.
It's been in the making at San Quentin for a long time.
Yeah.
To have somebody, I think her name was the first warden that started, it was Jeannie Wolford.
Okay. I don't know that for sure.
I believe that's, I know her last name was Wolford.
Okay.
But she was the first warden that started the rehabilitation at San Quentin.
Yeah.
And so to see, you see her and then she retired, and then you get one that's not good, then you get one that is.
Yeah.
Right? That's what San Quentin's about. Every prison needs a warden,
man,
or an administration that's willing to be true.
Yeah. It starts with just giving a shit.
Pretty much. That's being true.
Yeah.
Knowing that this could be you, or this could be one of your family members,
right?
Or knowing that it is one of your family members, and how you want to treat them, or how you want them treated, or what type of help you want them to have.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, for the record, I would love to have the warden or his wife on the podcast to chat about today in general, but also just big picture stuff.
Right.
His wife is very into the Enneagram and I don't know. I feel like we could just kind of go off and just brag about them for 10 or 15 minutes. It was a really positive experience for me today. Yeah. It actually really pointed out a place in my mind where I need to readdress how I think about folks based on their position rather than who they are, as a person. That's actually something I talk about. Like, that's, talking about people who are incarcerated, see them for who they are instead of what they did.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've done a very good job of being that way with folks in uniform.
Right.
So I'll just admit that out loud and say that that's a bummer, and I'll work on it. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm taking back it is what it is, because that's a lazy way to just shrug it off and move to something else. I'm saying that is something that needs to be worked on, and I will. And it's easy at San Quentin with the folks that we dealt with today and hung out with, but at other prisons where I'm at,
Right.
it's worth reconsidering. So there's just a side thought on that. So we hung out at the warden's house. That's a sentence I'm still laughing at when I say. Hung out there. That was the big chunk of the day. And as we leave, we EPP as a group, there was 30, 40 of us, whatever it was.
Right.
Walked down to the parking lot, left the prison grounds officially, got in our cars, and boogied on out of there. And did you have, as we were leaving, was there anything that came up in the car? Any thoughts, or was it just another day driving to the next place?
No, I let Lance know that, hey, Lance, I ain't seen the Golden Gate Bridge.
That's why y'all went that way. There was a longer way.
Yeah, I said I hadn't seen the Golden Gate Bridge, and he said, well, that's the way we're going.
Yeah.
And so we went that way. We didn't get a good picture, but I got a picture.
Mostly fog,
but I got some orange in behind me. But it was a good thing. I went over, and the cool part about it was fast.
Yeah.
It seemed like we went over the Golden Gate Bridge faster than the San Rafael Bridge.
It is, I think it's shorter.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know that for sure, but it's a quick one.
Right.
You drive around, because I think it was an extra. We were talking about it. Which way do we want to go back to the hotel?
Right.
Rick and I, and Halita was in the car with us, and it was this way is shorter, but this way is like 10 minutes longer, but the Golden Gate Bridge. So
right.
We decided, and we were behind y'all. We weren't necessarily following you.
Right.
We just made the same decision.
Oh, okay.
And so then we all went that way. But I remember thinking, like, why are they going that way? Because it's longer.
Yeah.
And I didn't even cross my mind that I hadn't seen it. And then it was mostly foggy.
Yeah.
But we can go again tomorrow, probably,
Yeah.
or another day before we head back, and we'll see it without fog. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
So get to the hotel. This is where the conference is happening. And we walk in, get checked in, go to dinner for the night. We took a peek at this reception. How long did it take you to get noticed, by the way, in the hotel? People who knew who you were.
Not that long. It wasn't that long. It wasn't that long. I think when we first walked in the door and got noticed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's that feel like?
Another form of appreciation. It was a good day. I have nothing bad to say about today. Today was a beautiful day. Full of love, joy, excitement. Yeah.
I think we could call it there, man. That feels like a good conclusion. We really got a good thing going here. And I love knowing that today was so good for you. I know that that's not always been true for folks going back in for the first time. And I think a lot of that's on you, by the way. I will accept the conversations that we've had playing a role in that. And you mentioned Dustin as well. I will accept that as being true. And I think that that's the smaller part of it. Actually, I think that you are in a good place. I think what you talk about, continuing programming, and I'll say it my way, you stay on top of your shit.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
There was also one other reason why I think I felt comfortable, because there was a couple of officers.
Oh yeah.
And free staff that I wanted to see that I didn't get to see.
Okay.
There was some that were just positive people about people making changes in their life. People that I got letters from for my parole board. But I didn't get to see. I think one, I asked the officer that was there, he said he thinks he retired, and the other one had retired and then came back to another position, so she wasn't in the same position.
Okay.
And but yeah, I would have loved to seen them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe next time.
It
feels like we got a foot in the door at that place.
Yeah.
It feels like we got a seat at the table.
And the warden was saying something about he got to get EPP something. I know he said he's got to get EPP at Avalon. That was one of the things he wants to have an all-state prison.
Okay.
And then, but he's saying we got to get EPP. And I told him, I told him, thank you. He said, thank you for what? I said, for allowing me into San Quentin today. He said, that's no problem. Come on back.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, if I do, I'm coming back for the day.
Yeah.
But I'd like to come back for a year. Right. In time, if things could work. Yeah, I want to go back.
Do you have a day clearance or a year clearance?
Day.
Okay, so you were only cleared for today.
Only cleared for the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know when you can apply for the year?
No, I don't.
Okay. I bet we know somebody who does.
Yeah, we do.
That's the conversation. That's what I wanted to have with you. We do have a way that we end these. I'll tell you. You get the last word, but before that, I want to have a word real quick, and just to say that I'm proud of you. I feel I'm pretty protective of this ambassador title and role and whatever you want to call it. And the reality is, I'm not super fluffy, friendly, accepting always, and I'm picky about who I stand shoulder to shoulder with. And I've been really fortunate to be able to share the stage, so to speak, with folks over the years who I believe in. And I believe in you. I see what you're doing. I see that it's working. I see that you give a shit. And the way that I experience the work that you're doing is that you're aware of what's going well, and you're also aware that you need to keep doing it. And I think it's commendable. And I just appreciate the hell out of you, man. I'm happy that you're an ambassador. Glad that you let us claim you. It was an honor to be there when you went back in for the first time today. And I'm happy for you, man. This was good shit, as we say.
Yeah.
This is a good day. So with that, I just want to turn it over to you. You can have the last word here. We have plenty of time, so say literally as much as you want to about this trip, about today, about anything that comes to mind. And I'll just turn it over to you and say thank you.
So I'm going to say thank you. And I just want to say I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to be in this position to say thank you, to give back, to continue my work, to appreciate all the people, Susan, Dana, Dustin, you, all the ambassadors who continue to help me. The guides, I'm really appreciative that I get to show up almost when I want to show up, because I learn each and every time. So I'm good. Today was a beautiful day.
EPP is on a mission to understand why we do what we do, using the Enneagram to inspire transformation on both sides of the bars through self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-compassion. For more information about EPP, please visit EnneagramPrisonProject.org. We appreciate your time and attention today. Please stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast, which you can expect right here on the first Tuesday of every month as we continue to tell the story of the Enneagram Prison Project.